Hello, thank you so much for having me here. Many things can be considered a musical work: scores, manuscripts, performances, or recordings. But even if we focus only on sound, the imaginary space of all possible music would still constitute an enormous space of possibilities. A quick thought experiment shows the scale. Let's take a compositional task of writing 12 chords for an instrument with a range of only 2 octaves. We could imagine this as a musical material for a very short miniature to be performed on a toy piano. The number of all possible solutions is about 5 million times larger than the number of protons in the universe. This is such a big amount that not even the most powerful supercomputer could check all options one by one within any reasonable time frame. Despite the difficulty of this described problem, musicians do not explore this space blindly. In fact, musicians effectively handle enormous musical spaces every day. Improvisers craft new progressions on stage in real time, and composers sketch ideas long before they test every possible alternative. This is possible because the brain is built for good enough answers when time and data are scarce. As neuroscientist Samuel Gershman writes, the brain is evolution's solution to the twin problems of limited data and limited computation. Artificial intelligence copies these strategies. A large part of the inspiration for artificial intelligence is the human brain, and the tasks to be solved best with AI are not the ones that machines have already been better at, but the opposite. AI actually helps automate typically human tasks that we don't know how to automate otherwise. It is very often nowadays to hear that artificial intelligence replaces artists in various creative tasks. However, automation of art making by AI is not as simple as it might seem. Researcher Sofian Audrey warns that artistic practice differs fundamentally from engineering or other problem-solving paradigms in that it does not begin with a predefined problem to be solved. Instead, art generates spaces of problematization, open-ended contexts that provoke questioning, uncertainty, and reflection. To put it simply, to make art is not to solve problems, but to critique, pose new challenges, and generate new problems to be experienced in specific time and specific context. AI models, trained on music from the past, are increasingly becoming undistinguishably good at reproducing the style of such learned material in new configurations, which makes these models great for making more of the music that we already know. At the same time, these models struggle to generate true novelty in experimental contemporary music contexts. This, however, has been challenged in my research through the creative use of increasingly popular large language models. What everyone knows from tools such as ChatGPT can now be used not only for generating text, but also as reasoning agents with the ability to control various tools, including those used for music making. The post-human take, so-called post-human take in the arts and in philosophy, is that the creative agent, who can be creative, is no longer only human, but art can also be made by non-human agents. The capability of AI to imitate human reasoning matters here because it means that creative decisions no longer come only from humans. AI agents become decision-making actants. They can set aims, choose methods, change the artwork, and give reasons for each step. Thus, agency is now distributed among human and non-human actors. In response to these initial observations, in the first phase, my doctoral research project focused on exploring how the established creative roles of artists can be re-envisioned in this post-human context. For that exploratory purpose, I engaged in activities such as teaching an experimental course, organizing a conference, and publishing a co-edited book to properly map the field, developing the core ideas of my thesis. The first artistic role re-envisioned by the project is the role of an artist as an operator of agential tools, an artist who uses pre-existing tools for automating various creative processes, as Yanis Xenakis summarized this role in Formalized Music, which is the book by the composer, describing the composer working with the aid of computers as a sort of pilot who presses the buttons, introduces coordinates, and supervises the controls of a cosmic vessel sailing in the space of sound, across sonic constellations and galaxies that they could formerly glimpse only as a distant dream. Now the artist can explore them at their ease, seated in an armchair. The key difference in the post-human context is that these tools can now also exhibit intelligent behavior. This leads to the second re-envisioned role, the artist as a curator of agential assemblages. An assemblage is a concept describing dynamic grouping of elements, human and non-human, material and expressive, that form a functional whole without losing their individual properties. What matters is not a fixed structure, but a shifting network of relations between elements. An artist who composes using intelligent processes performed by human and non-human agents can then be seen as a curator of agencies rather than the sole originator of the musical work, a curator of relations between actants, in other words, a curator of agential assemblages. But to automate various aspects of the creative process, artists have always not only been using tools, but also participated in their creation, which in the post-human context leads to the third re-envisioned role, artists as builders of intelligent systems. The focus shifts from composing outputs and standalone works to composing systems capable of producing artworks. Importantly, the identity of such an artwork no longer lies in any single output of a generative system, but in the system that generates artistic outputs. In other words, sometimes the intelligent system itself can be considered an artwork. The fourth role is the artist as a builder of creative ecosystems in which humans and AI agents can co-create on top of each other's contributions. This is what I call worlding. Philosopher Martin Heidegger used the term worlding to mean that a world reveals itself through how we live and act in it, rather than as something we build. Then, philosopher Donna Haraway took it further. Worlding is about people and non-humans, like animals, tools, or AI, shaping one another as they live and create together. In practice, worlding can mean composing art ecosystems that others can enter, use, and transform through their creation. My research then asked a simply framed but hard question: how can we technically enable an artistic practice of worlding such ecosystems? I proposed a new kind of technical solution, the Decentralized Creative Network. Its goal is to let many agents, people and AI, build on top of one another's work with trust and by keeping the provenance clear. To make this possible, I used another emerging technology, blockchain. And here is a short, plain explanation of why. Typically on the internet, many computers each run their own software and then exchange information. There are many sources of truth which are hard to align. By contrast, on a blockchain, many computers together simulate one shared computer. When software is installed on this shared computer, it is installed everywhere at once, when there is only one shared source of truth. And because execution occurs on a single shared machine, multiple actants can treat computer programs installed on such a machine as kind of performative operations in artistic contexts and transparently build on top of another's contributions. This is where the key invention of my thesis comes in: performative transactions. Performative transactions are programs on the blockchain's shared computer designed for composing. As presented in my doctoral concert yesterday, this system already works in practice. AI agents can plan steps, select materials, and explain choices. Performative transactions register creative contributions and generate new versions of artworks, and importantly, others can transparently build further works from these building blocks. The project then proposes a workable model for art in the post-human era. It treats every human and every intelligent system as a potential collaborator. It invites any reasoning agent into the same ecosystem where creative work can be reused, credited, and grown over time. Worlding, in this sense, becomes a practical and technical term, allowing for a concrete artistic practice, building the ecosystems in which new art can happen together. Thank you so much.